It's time for another edition of Saturday with Seniors. I just love this program, and a big, big thank you. Eisenhower's Tire County Harley-Davidson. They do some great things for the community. And by the way, their 2024 bikes are in, and Harley-Davidson always comes up with these amazing, unique colors that are really cool too, besides seeing how the bikes progress each year. So stop by, take a look at those, and enjoy the program. Again, all brought to you by Eisenhower's Tire County Harley-Davidson, South Mansfield. Here on KC101, our guest today, Evelyn Day. I think the oldest person we've interviewed here on Saturday with Seniors. Evelyn Day Brown, 104 years old. So what year were you born?
1919.
1919, like before the Great Depression even, right?
Oh, yes.
World War II hadn't even started.
It was just the end of World War One.
No, okay. Wow. You might have even met someone who was a Civil War veteran in your life. You probably did.
We had Civil War veterans come into the school when I was a kid in their blue uniforms.
Oh, my gosh. If I could time travel and talk to a Civil War veteran,
They did.
you got to experience something that to me would be amazing. And I'm sure so many other people. They came into the school and spoke.
Yes.
So you were born in Philadelphia, right? West Philadelphia?
Ship Bottom,
New Jersey. Sorry. Okay. You moved to Philadelphia later on. You were born in New Jersey.
Because my mother was not well, and they thought she should go to the shore. They lived in Philadelphia, but she went to the shore, and I happened to be born there.
Oh, okay. In a hospital?
No, it was a first aid.
First aid station? A doctor came to the house call, your daughter's saying. So when you were first born, your daughter said you didn't get a birth certificate. They didn't think you were going to make it.
No,
They missed that by over 100 years.
my mother was not his patient.
Mm-hmm.
She had gone to the shore just because she was upset. And so I was only 4 pounds, and he didn't think I'd live.
Mm-hmm. We didn't know what we knew now about neonatal and steroids, and that was just pray.
He never put my name in when I needed a passport, and I called for my passport. We have no record of you being born.
They got that straightened out at some point, I hope?
Yeah, I got a passport. We traveled a lot, my husband and I.
Well, very interesting. So your father was a dentist?
He had an office and a waiting room in the middle of the house. My mother was not fond of that idea, but people came into our house, walked through the living room, went up the stairs to the office upstairs on the 2nd floor. Our bedrooms were on the 3rd floor.
So the dentist office is right in your house?
In the middle of the house. It didn't bother me, but bothered my mother.
Yeah. That probably would be tough. Dentistry was different then than it is now, right? There wasn't some of the modern things that we have with pain relief and x-rays. Well, maybe x-rays, but...
X-rays we had.
Yeah.
He took x-rays, but he didn't pull teeth.
Was he your dentist, your dad, too? He took care of your teeth? Filled cavities in your mouth?
Yes, oh yes. I was allowed as a child to watch him work as long as I did not make a sound. If I made a sound, I was out.
Mm-hmm. So it was a nice neighborhood that you grew up in?
Yes, very nice.
What'd you do with your friends when you were looking for something fun to do? There was no TV when you were a kid. Did you have electricity when you were a kid there?
Oh, yes.
Okay, and city people had electricity then. Most people here 100 years ago didn't have electricity. Or something, well, a lot did.
The city.
Yeah. So right, yeah. So you had electric as a kid, but what did you do for entertainment then?
Went to the movies.
You did?
Yeah. We saw cowboy shows, movies, Tom Mix.
Yep.
But they found that I got sick to my stomach when I watched because I had astigmatism in my eyes. Made me sick. So I wore glasses from the time I was 7 years old. But we had fun. We had a gang of kids after school. We could play games, hide and seek mainly.
Mm-hmm. Do they sometimes forget to look for somebody? My mom said sometimes they'd play hide and go seek and they'd forget the person. They didn't want to hang out with them.
I one time, underneath the steps of the backyard of a house down the street, closed the door and then couldn't get out. So I screamed.
Mm-hmm.
And finally they came and let me out. And I never did that again.
Your parents let you go out on your own when you were a kid?
Oh, yes, to play.
In the city, when you were a little kid, they didn't worry about you going out at 6, 7 years old?
No.
No.
No, we were safe.
You felt safe?
We were safe.
My dad used to take the subway to school when he was in first grade in New York City, like a half-hour ride by himself. You hear about that and you think, how could that have been? But
it was safe.
It happened then. So the neighborhood, you all knew each other too? Everyone got to know each other?
We stayed pretty much right in a very close area. I didn't go across the street. I stayed by a block, but it was safe, perfectly safe.
So the Great Depression was just ending when you were born. Did your parents, do you remember anything they did, or they tell you things that they did to try to, well I know your family, being a dentist, your dad probably still had work all the time, but hopefully.
Yes, he didn't feel it until his patients couldn't pay him. Then he began to feel it, but he didn't lose his job like men in a factory did. So we weren't hurt as bad as a lot of people were. But, I was taught when I left the room to turn out the light. And I still do that. People think I'm crazy, but I still turn out the light when I don't use it. Because I was trained. You don't waste anything.
My dad would say, we don't own the electric company, Kevin.
He knew the Depression.
Yeah, my grandparents told me a lot about the Depression and things that they did to try to stretch everything as far as they could.
I remember men standing on the street corners selling apples.
I've seen pictures, but
I remember
you remember seeing it.
The men, they'd polish them, make the apples look shiny and bright, but they would sell them. I don't know what they sold them for. Men would come to the door and ask for food. My mother's orders were that we were to go to the kitchen and make a sandwich. We were not to ask them in the house. But we were to get them food and give them food. We were not to give them money.
Yeah. This is before unemployment was in this country, or a lot of the...
During the Depression.
Yeah, after the Depression is when all those programs came into play, if I remember my history right. Now, you were a history teacher. We're jumping a little bit ahead, but we'll get to that in a second. So how long did you live in Philadelphia for?
Oh.
Long time?
Long time. I got married.
Got married in Philadelphia. Well, let's talk about the husband that you met. Can I ask you how you met him?
I met him in college. I got a scholarship to Bucknell, and I went to Bucknell for 4 years, and met my husband there, Ken Brown. Didn't meet him until the very end of my senior year.
And how did you meet him? Did you just start talking to him?
We met on a blind date.
We're getting another story from your daughter. Were you playing the piano or organ, maybe?
Oh, no. He played the organ, and he was in the practice room, practicing on the organ. I was singing. I kept my music in that room, in the closet. I walked in to get my music, and he was playing the organ, and he turned around and saw it was me. Oh, it's you, he said. You don't count. I said, what do you mean I don't count? Well, he said, I heard you come in, and I'm not supposed to be practicing at this time. I thought you were going to make me leave the organ, but you don't take organs. You take music, singing. But that was the first thing he said to me. It's you.
You don't count.
So I made him eat those words.
Yes, you did.
We were married for almost 50 years.
Wow.
We didn't quite make it.
Yeah. Sounds like even though it's a funny start, it sounds like a nice relationship, having someone there for that many years in your life.
Yes.
Did you like music as a kid? You said you performed music. Did you ever go to any live music performances, or did you have any favorite musicians?
Nelson Eddy.
Don't know that name.
You don't know Nelson
No.
Eddy? Jeanette MacDonald.
Keep going.
An actress. You don't know them?
I wish I did. I'll have to do some research.
They had beautiful voices. They made movies together like Naughty Marietta. And that was Rosemary. And I went to all their movies. I loved hearing them sing.
Before the days of TV, that was the only way you could actually see something, was going to the movie theater, right? That was moving unless you're actually there. People take for granted now that we can see what something looks like on TV. You had to go to the movies to see it.
We went to the movies. We saw Tom Mix. Do you know that name?
I do know that name. A couple other people I've interviewed have mentioned the Western
Mix,
movies from him. And that's where you got your news, too, right? Do they play little news clips before the or cartoons?
The Germans marching and the newsreel with the shovels instead of guns. But they were marching like they were in the army. This was before World War II, but they marched with shovels. Can you picture that?
No, but wow. So you mentioned World War II. You remember much about the war? And did you have anybody in the family in the war?
The only person in the war was my brother-in-law. My sister's husband was in the war in the Pacific Island hop. But my husband had a bad heart. He found out when he was 22. So the Army didn't want him and the Navy didn't want him. He tried for the Navy, but neither one of them wanted him.
Yeah.
So he didn't go to the war. But my brother-in-law did, and he was in the Pacific a long time, but he didn't get hurt. Well, he got sick with a tropical disease, but that was all.
He was very fortunate. A lot of lives are lost in that. You remember rationing during the war?
Oh, yes, sugar.
Gasoline and a lot of stuff.
My car. My father had a Cadillac.
And did you get a driver's license at some point?
I got a farmer's permit when I was 16. My birthday. I didn't lose any time.
Do you remember the first car you drove?
In my father's car. He taught me to drive, and he was a good teacher.
At that time, were there still horses on the road? Horse and buggies? Not too many there. Around this area, there were still some, but no.
Philadelphia was a sophisticated city.
The milkman, your daughter's asking, was he in a horse and buggy?
Yes, he drove a horse. Milkman, the bread man.
Yep, so there were some horse and buggies then on the road.
But not buggies.
Oh, well, okay, more the wagons or...
Wagons.
You remember the Iceman coming to the house?
Yes, I do.
Carrying what, his big ice tongs and his ice carried over his shoulder?
I carry the big ice. We love that.
What else do you remember in the news? World War II we talked about, the Great Depression. Were there some other things that happened in your life that stick out that you remember? Or presidential elections, or when JFK was shot, or we landed on the moon, or...
I remember when Al Smith ran. Al Smith was the first Catholic that ran for presidency. I just remember the fact that we were Protestants, of course, and we didn't want Al Smith to get elected. Hoover got elected.
So at the time for your family, that was what your family had hoped for. Do you remember the first president you voted for?
Oh, yes. I went home from college to vote. My father paid for me to go home to vote.
The atomic bomb, she's saying that it probably saved your brother-in-law's life because they were planning to attack Japan, but that going off stopped things just in time for him, possibly.
You know, it was amazing. They were going to send the men who had fought the Germans. They were going to send them out to the Pacific to fight the Japs. They didn't get home. Did you realize that? No,
I didn't.
They were preparing to send the men who had fought in Europe. They were going to send them right over to the fight in Japan.
What?
They weren't going to be sent home because they had done very well.
Yeah.
I didn't know it then at the time, but I read about that later.
You seem to know a lot about history, and I think if I remember right, you were a teacher.
I taught American history to 7th and 8th graders.
Is that why you went to school in Bucknell, right? Is that what you went to school for, to be a teacher?
Mm-hmm.
So what was teaching like back, this is 1940s you were a teacher?
Well, they were bad boys.
Nothing's changed, I guess.
I taught in Burlington, New Jersey. And they had the smart ones in one class and the middle.
Yeah, different levels for classing so that people can learn at their speed that they each learn at.
Segregated, yeah.
Wow.
And the dumb ones were always the ones that gave you trouble.
Well, they needed some strong guidance, probably. Maybe they didn't get that at home. And hopefully as a teacher, you were able to give them as much guidance as you can. But that's always got to be tough if it's not always there for a kid. So how many kids do you have and grandkids? And do you have any great-grandkids?
Oh, yeah. I do. I had 3 daughters.
I see the photo right there, yes. Beautiful.
The one on the right side became a doctor.
Wow.
And she got cancer and died at 63. The one in the middle is the one sitting behind you.
Yep, she's got the same shirt on.
Could be. And the other one in the lives out in Iowa. Oh, I don't see her very often.
Well, we can send her the email address. She can listen to this interview online on our YouTube channel. Wow. Anything else you want to share? We're just about running out of time, but anything you want to mention or anything? You came to Tioga County eventually. I guess we should go into that just for a second. How did you end up here in Tioga County?
Because of her.
Because of your daughter. Your daughter Jan was already up here, and she...
I lived down in Hatboro. That's a little town outside of Philadelphia, and it's a 4-hour drive. And she would come down every 2 weeks to fill the larder. And then I fell and broke my hip, and I had to give up my home. I lived in a retirement home. I couldn't stay there because I had fallen.
So you were driving your car until you were 100 years old?
Just about.
Yeah. And then when you fell and broke your hip, unfortunately, that happened. Your daughter worked out so you come up here and you're at Country Terrace.
I thought it was better for her. She didn't have to go 4-hour drive down, 4-hour drive back.
Yeah.
So I moved up here to this. If you look at the pictures, you get an idea of my home.
Okay, yep, I'm seeing a picture of the house. Very nice house there with nice lawn and...
That's where she grew up.
Wow. So how do you like Country Terrace? Everybody treating you good here?
Yes, they treat me good. It's not home.
Well, it's a little smaller than your home, but you've definitely made it feel like a home here. You've got lots of pictures hanging up and done a nice job with that.
Yeah.
A lot less places to lose things. That's my biggest problem. I don't want a big house. I'll lose stuff. I won't be able to find my keys or anything.
I lived there several years alone after my husband died in that big house. But I wasn't afraid. I thought I would be, but I wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. This has been very interesting, hearing about growing up in West Philadelphia and how you ended up here at Country Terrace in Wellsboro and family up here. And you said 104 years old, 105 in July. Yeah, that's a lot of candles. They all fit in one cake?
No candles.
No candles? And you'll heat the whole place up in the wintertime with that.
They're afraid to death of candles here.
So what's the secret to living to be 104, 105 years old? What do I need to do?
Don't smoke.
I don't smoke, so I'm good so far. And that's the main thing.
Don't drink. Well, that's hard.
Well,
You hesitate now.
I haven't had any alcohol in 2 weeks, so I'm pretty good.
Well, I never drank and I never smoked.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason I've lived so long. When you live this long, you lose your friends. They die.
Yeah, got to be sad. And then moving up here, you probably made some friends here, though, where you're living, or you will make friends here, I'm sure.
Yes.
Evelyn Day Brown, thank you for joining us. 104 years young on Saturday with Seniors. Brought to you by Eisenhower's Tioga County, Harley-Davidson, South Mansfield, Saturday with Seniors. By the way, if you missed any part of this show or any of our shows, you can hear them all on our YouTube channel. Go to our website. There's a link to our YouTube channel. You'll find all our Saturday with Seniors programs on there. Our website is